All right, brother. I have clicked the required buttons, and so we're recording now.
Love it.
Because you were saying that you are creatively constipated. I think that's where I interrupted you.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it's felt like. I've been sitting here saying for the last, uh, anytime someone would ask, "Oh, you're a writer. How long have you been doing that?" I'm like, I have 10 years of experience, and that's not true at all, man. I've had like 1 or 2 years of experience that I've repeated five, six, seven, eight, nine times. So I've been doing the same shit for so long, thinking that's experience, but it's not. It's just being repetitive. It's the same drudgery. And finding sobriety has just, it was like it ripped the door off right off its fucking hinges. And uh it's opened me up to writing in a whole new way, to helping people in a whole new way. And honestly, I was so focused on getting well. I knew that if I was going to get well, I had to be very, very selfish about it. And one of the ways that's helped me stay sober and stay focused has been helping others and learning how to be unselfish. So that's kind of the space that I'm in now.
Love that, man. So I'm stoked to dive into all of that, and I'm aware that some people listening right now might not have any idea who Jack Raymond is. So do you mind just filling them in on like who you are, what your deal is, why you're sitting here?
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe I can intro actually. Jack and I met. You bought me dinner in San Francisco in like 2015, 2016, somewhere
Yep.
in there.
Mm-hmm.
You're a writer. We met on Instagram. We've been homies for like many, many years on Instagram DM and text message. And this conversation is a long time coming, I feel. So that's my intro to you. I think you're a brilliant writer. You're always one of these guys that was like, came across as like grumpy and like Bukowski-esque and like kind of like mopey angry, but like I could see right through it that there's this big like teddy bear heart in there, that you're like actually a really good dude inside. That was always my perception.
Don't
Don't want
fucking.
to ruin ruin your reputation, but
You're ruining my book sales in Germany, bro. So,
but so anyway, that's my intro to you. Who are you to you?
my name is Jack, and I'm an alcoholic. I fucking think I'm just used to introducing myself that way now after all these damn meetings. But yeah, I remember meeting you in San Francisco, and it feels like, I mean, it feels like a lifetime ago, and the world was like, it's not hyperbole to say the whole world was different when I met him for dinner. It fucking was. It was literally different. And I remember spending, as one does in San Francisco, a lot of money on a dinner that had no protein, or well, no meat, which to me at the time, with my smooth brain, I thought no meat meant no protein. So anyway, I remember just walking away with the woman I was with afterwards, and I'm sure we were fighting because I was probably drunk or something, and thinking that was the most expensive lot of vegetables I've ever fucking bought. This is an outrage. And but anyway, I've been writing full time for about 10 years now, and it all happened really by chance. My father passed away about 11 years ago, very very young, 53. I grew up around two parents who were both alcoholics and addicts, um, and really shunned them because of it. I grew up thinking, I'm not going to be anything like them. Uh, and when my father passed away, it really, really rocked me. I had spent my whole life judging this man who was, not, he was my father. I look just like him. I'm named after him. He's named after his father. And I'm over here 25, 26 years old thinking I know better. I know shit. I know life. And uh, he passed away, and it really rocked me. And it was the first time I ever sat down and really started to write. I've always said that the most honest thing that I've ever written was his obituary, and it set everything in place. For 2 days, I sat there and wrote his obituary, and for the first time in my life, it felt like I was being honest. I was not lying. It was very hard to lie to a blank sheet of paper. No one was listening anymore. I wasn't trying to impress people. I wasn't ashamed of him. I was just expressing myself, it felt like. And I proceeded to spend the next year or so drinking and writing and drinking and drinking and writing and drinking and drinking and writing, kind of in that order. And I had fallen into some pretty hard times to the point where I was homeless, living in my car for a while. My son, who was only 4 years old, was with his mom, and she moved away with him. And all I could think to do was write. It was like cathartic. It was therapeutic for me. If I had stopped writing for more than a few minutes, I would realize that I was at homeless. I was living in my car. My father was dead. I was not around my son, and just some heavy, scary things that I was not ready to totally face. So the page was what I looked down to, and I remember uh, having living in this Nissan Altima, a one-bedroom Nissan Altima, and I had like dozens and dozens of these composition books filled with God knows what. And I would take some of the things that I thought were significant in my 26-year-old head, that I thought were good, that were worth expounding upon and exploring. And I would text them to myself because I knew I'd probably lose these notebooks someday and I didn't want to forget about them. So I would text them to myself. Well, a friend of mine calls me one day and says, "Hey, man, I'm going on this double date with this girl and she's bringing her friend. I need you to come." And I'm like, I'm miserably depressed, living in my car. I have no money. I don't care about life or anything. And I'm like, a double date sounds like an absolute nightmare. I'm not doing that. Absolutely not. No fucking chance. Am I going on your double date, dude? That is awful that you'd even ask. And he says, "Bro, I'll buy your drinks." And I'm like, "Awesome, bro. What time? What time are we doing this? Where is that? Where's it at? I'm on my way." And so I get to this fucking date and I'm already in the bag. And
In the
I don't,
bag meaning what? Drunk?
oh, I'm three. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I'm 3 sheets to the wind now. And uh, I guess I'm trying to impress this girl for whatever reason. And my drunk head thinks, like, "Oh, yeah, read her your poetry, man. They're going to love that at dinner." So, so I bust out my phone and I start reading her some bullshit that I wrote. And she's like, "That's really good. Who wrote that?" And I was like, "I wrote that." And she said, "You know how to write?" And I was like, "Yeah, and read." And she's like, she's like, "Oh, that's cool. That's really good. You should share that." And I said, "With who?" And she said, "Instagram." And I said, "Who is Instagram?" And she's like, "It's a social media platform. It's like Facebook." I had never done Facebook. I had never done MySpace. I never did any of that shit. Not above it. I just wasn't in that space, I guess. And anyway, she talked me into it. She met her for coffee a couple days later. I wish I could remember this woman's name because she was very nice and she deserved better than I than I gave her that those couple of days. But uh, she met up with me. She literally helped me find a typewriter at one point to where I could sell my work on Etsy. She set up my Instagram account. She told me, "Just post one thing a day in the morning, dude. Just when you wake up all shitty, feeling like death, just post something." And I started doing that every morning. I would just start taking these little things that I was texting myself or had written, and I would just throw them up on Instagram. I had no idea what I was doing, but quickly grew. And I think, I don't know, I had 20, 30,000 people following me in a couple months, and I still was dead broke and busted. And it was my younger brother who asked me one day. He's like, "Dude, do you see what's happening here? Like, something's happening here." And I'm like, "I know I got like $12 in my bank account. That's the only thing I know that's happening." And it took a while, but to get to that point. But it's like once it happened quick. But I ended up getting a publishing contract a few months after that, and I don't know. I've had 5 books published so far. It's a long-winded answer. Sorry for that, but yeah, 5 books published so far, 3 of them bestsellers. And I'm in the middle of starting a brand new, very big project now.
I love that story for a few reasons. One is um, that there are just angels out there amongst us, and that our lives can change by just saying yes to random invitations or circumstances, right? So you were
Right.
like, I'm gonna go on a double date, and it turns out, like, if I would have said that to you, you're living in your car and you're broke, and if I would have been your friend at that time and said, Jack, you might meet this woman and she might change your life forever tonight. You'd be like, get the fuck out of here. That's impossible. That doesn't happen. But then that's exactly what happened is this woman completely altered the trajectory of your entire life
Yeah.
only because you went on a double date that you didn't really want to go on. And then the second thing that I loved was that your brother could see things from a different perspective than you, and it was so obvious sometimes. It is so obvious sometimes for an outsider to see us or to see our lives or to see our circumstances in a very different way, where it's like, bro, like, you have followers, they'll give you money, just sell your shit. And it's like, oh, why didn't I think of that for months while I'm living in my car? I think those two ideas jumped out at me. I hear them all the time,
Right.
or I say things all the time of like, hey, why don't you try that? Why don't you do that? Have you asked them for help? I love it, man. And now, as you say, you've written 5 books and you have a huge following online, and you're a full-time writer who makes money that way.
Yeah, I remember when when I got this. And look, life is just so strange, man. I for so long now, I we were talking earlier about how like, oh, it's amazing when you like. I mean, a recovering alcoholic and addict, so I know that that's in me, but like also the addict brain in me thinks victim. I'm like victimized all the time. Like that's just the prism I've seen things through for so long that it's awesome to not think that now, but for so long I've sat here thinking like, oh man, it's this has happened to me, that's happened to me. They don't get it. They don't understand my hardships and my plight. And how quickly you start to feel amazing when you stop drinking a gallon of liquid depressants every day and like chasing that with like a big ass bag of coke and snorting Adderall and blowing orange boogers the next day, like a bunch of disgusting, terrible, shameful things. And then I'm waking up the next day or later that night or still up at 3 a.m. thinking like, oh, the fucking world's against me, man. Like, nah, man, you're against it. You're against the world right now, man. So it's been freeing. But I was thinking this, telling somebody this story the other day about how that girl who got me that typewriter, like so many things. I was so broken and bottomed that like and weak. Really, I was weak. That if anything had gone wrong, what if she had not liked my poem, whatever it was that I read? I don't know. What if that typewriter she but God, I didn't know what a fucking typewriter was, dude. If the ink ribbon was didn't work right, I would have been devastated. I would have been like, well, fuck it. See, I'm out of here. Or like, whatever, man. My social media account or anything could have gone wrong and it didn't. And all I tried to do for the next decade was get in the way of it. And like, and bitch and complain once you stop. And it's almost like whatever you believe in, man. Like I'm any spiritual or any if it's God, if it's your higher power, your source, the creator, the universe, whatever it is, I don't for a second believe any of this is an accident. I don't believe that we're here by mistake. I don't believe that you pass away and you rot in a box. I don't believe that. I believe that's just me. And I believe all I needed to do was stand in the fucking flow of what's happening and not like just like I'm like it's like a fire hose and I'm just like putting my hand in front of it first. Like, oh shit! Like it's just coming out real quick. Like man, I just had to stand in front of this shit for once, stop fighting it. And after that, man, I don't. It's incredible. It's what my life has been like in just such a short amount of time since finding sobriety and since doing that. But yeah, that girl was a godsend. I wish I could even remember her name because I would try like hell to find her and just thank her a million times over for it.
Hmm. It's cool to imagine that she's just out there wandering around living life and has no idea that she like saved your life in many ways,
For sure.
just by a little act of kindness and getting you a typewriter. Um, okay, so you've been sober for how long now? A month?
It's been 40 days, and I have gone like bouts before, spurts, spans before.
Mm.
And in AA, or in the program, we call it white knuckling, and it's like trying to be sober but with zero plan, and you have no defense against the the thing that's controlling your life, be it booze or drugs or gambling or whatever it is that people um, can't manage or control properly. But it's I'll kind of give you a quick background of just like how this, like how poetic in a way that I am where I am right now, because I had two alcoholic parents who I didn't have my first drink till I was 26. And I mean, I think I had some champagne. I think I take that back. This is a great story. I, I it all makes more sense now, dude. It just, the more I look into where I am, how the fuck I got here, I'm like, of course I'm here. Of course it happened this way, dude. There's no other way. I was 6 years old, and we lived in this apartment complex, and our neighbors downstairs and to the left of us were a bunch of college kids. I'm 6 years old. I don't know my ass from my elbow, but I saw them outside one day drinking Jack Daniels, and all I remember was thinking that bottle has my name on it, like literally, like thinking that's really fucking cool. As a 6 year old, you think anything that has your name on it is awesome. Like that's our whatever. That was awesome to me, and these kids would all be like strung up now if they ever did this, but this was 30 years ago, a little different. So they just poured me a shot. They're like, here, man, try it. And I took that shot. I was six. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And it was almost like I came online. Like I was like, I was in the ether before. And then it was like, zing. Like, okay, you're here now on Earth for just a second. It was like warm and I felt good. And I just remember my mom coming home from work, and I hadn't felt really good. That good feeling lasted about 15 minutes. And then after that, it was just like my body was in revolt. And my mom's just sitting there. She sees I'm probably green, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And bro, when I tell you, I Jackson Pollock painting that whole living room, like it was just violent, violent vomit everywhere. But I knew young. Well, I can't say anything. I just, if from a young age, I started to have to hide it. Like if I had said anything, well, then these kids that I thought were cool, these cool college dudes, that just gave a 6 year old a shot, which now looking back on it is fucking insane. Like, why would you do that? You don't know that kid. So, anyway, I was started to hide it from a young age, but so she never knew that. But that was my first drink, and it's crazy to look back and realize that. But because of I was around alcoholism, and maybe because of that first experience, I really was not. I really tried hard to distance myself from it. I was hyper aware of what it could do to a person. And when my dad died, I really took a step back and realized this is one of the happiest fucking people I've ever met. He's a really genuinely good man. And I had shunned him most of my life because he was an alcoholic and he's the man of the house. And he was just with my mom. They were obsessed with each other. They were in love. My mom could have came home and been like, "Honey, I want to try heroin," and he'd been like, "Baby, I'll get us heroin then." Like they were in it together, like Bonnie and Clyde. And I didn't really realize it then, but once I started drinking, I quickly made up for lost time. And um, about 6 years ago, and anyone who's followed me on Instagram or social media, I guess, has maybe seen the picture, but my father passed away, and immediately after that, my mom tried like hell to drink herself to death, since like wholeheartedly tried to drink herself to death, and came so very close to succeeding. She ended up going to the hospital a little after Mother's Day 6 years ago, and I don't even think she made it through the paperwork, like checking in. She total like organ failure, heart failure, Ended up being like basically under in a coma for several days. They put a pacemaker in her. Like my younger brother, I was too afraid to even go. And also, I'm battling my own addictions at this point in life. My brother, my younger brother, who I love dearly, he's calling family members, making final arrangements, telling them, and she, pulls through, pulls out of this. So between my father passing away from his health issues and battling his own addiction, and then my mom, her going through it and seeing her really in the throes of it, and alcohol's getting her, its hooks deep, deep into her. Um, she almost dies. She lives. I have every reason. I have a successful career. I have every reason to avoid it still, and I'm not. I'm diving deeper and deeper and deeper into this thing. And to this day, I don't know exactly why, but it finally comes to a head, I think for the first time a couple years ago. I have destroyed so many relationships. I've let so many people down. I've cost myself. I mean, I don't need, I shudder to think the amount of money it's costed me, not even in terms of just buying alcohol and drugs, but I mean like as far as opportunities that I've overlooked or let slip by because I was too busy consuming. And uh just in constant denial. I end up, losing my son. I give him up for adoption. He's in a good situation now with his mother and her husband, and I'm grateful for them. But just all these things that there was a time where I thought, well, now that I don't have to be strapped to a job, a conventional job, I guess, and I'm not engaged to my son's mother, and now she's moved away with him. I'm really unencumbered and I can really drink a lot now. Like I can really like that's like a normal person I think would think, well, dude, man, you're losing everything right now. Like pump the brakes. And to me, it was like now the governor was off and I can really, really take it in now. And it was just more and more and more and more. And like I should absolutely not be here right now. The bottoming out point happened recently where I finally had to get help. Where uh, this is like when I well, I'll just fuck it. I'll just say it. I was trying to hide. My wife now had said after many arguments and reaching our breaking point several times, and um, she had told me like, okay, if you drink anymore, we're done for real. I had heard that a couple times before and weaseled my way back in. And I was one night, it was probably like 2 3 a.m. I had been drinking for a few months behind her back like a fucking drunk ninja, just like really cunning. I have it stashed in different places, and I knew which liquor didn't smell as much. I knew exactly how long to stop drinking, what to eat. I'd brush a shit out of my tongue several times a day. Certain mints work better with certain liquor. Like I'm talking like I'm putting real effort into my addiction here. And uh she finds this bottle that's empty, and I deny it. We get into this big blow up. I was like, man, that thing is like a year old. That's like an old bag, whatever. I don't know. And she's done. She's at her way. I could see it. She's just like defeated. We're both tired. She goes back to bed. It's like 2, 3 a.m. And I'm trying to write this guy's custom poem. And I've done all the drugs. There's no more drugs in the house. And I remember being very upset by that. Like, oh man, there's no more fucking drugs. How annoying. Like, I was just really inconvenienced by the fact that I had done all the drugs already. And all the booze is gone that I've stashed and hid. And from the recesses of my addicted alcoholic mind, I remembered 2 weeks ago we had put on the windowsill a cup of red wine to attract fruit flies. we'd leave our door and windows open sometimes. And I guess she read somewhere that if you put a little cup of red wine, they'll fly into it, drown, and die. And how the hell I remembered that that was there even. There was probably very little alcohol content in it at that point. God knows how many bugs and shit and dust and garbage. But I was just so bent on more, more, more that, and we had just argued. So now I'm really spinning and I'm like, fuck it. I don't care. The hell do I care? Dude? I didn't respect myself at that point. I had almost no self respect, dignity left. Forget about that. And I just marched I took my shoes off because I didn't want to wake her up. So I'm like tiptoeing, but an angry tiptoe, which is very hard to do. So I'm angrily tiptoeing through the house. And man, I threw back that cup. I mean, I don't even know how many bugs and shit were in it, dude. Like, I don't know. I just remember waking up the next day so ashamed. And I remember thinking to myself, I I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore. And I walked into an AA meeting begrudgingly, very, very hopeless. That night or that morning, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I Googled how much alcohol does it take to kill yourself and what kind of alcohol is the easiest to keep down because I was fucking terrified of the idea that I might try and drink myself to death and throw it up before I could. That was that would have just that would have devastated me if I couldn't even do that. If I failed at that even like and I walked into that first AA meeting and this is not an AA plug, dude. Trust me, you don't want to have to be there. It's not like a bunch of dudes just hanging out on a Friday night like loving it. But I walked in there terrified and I sat there with about 30 dudes, men, women who have overcame things that made me blush, that were far and away worse. And then they're standing there proud. I've been sober 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years. And I'm here every day fighting that because every day I wake up and I'm an alcoholic and I know that. So every day I work on that. I know it's there waiting for me. So I have to. I can't. The other option for me is death. And when they said that, I was like, that was how I felt an hour ago. It made all the sense in the world to me. I walked in there one way and I walked out of that meeting fucking changed person. If it was the first time in 10 years I didn't think of killing myself. It was the first time I realized, oh my God, you don't like I used to see happy people with promise and Sprite, and I would be like, they're so full of shit. There's no way. So that's that curmudgeon that you said earlier. Like I used to see, I was like, this dude just seems. I just thought most people were full of shit, man. I was like, how is anyone that happy? That can't be real. What do they get? What are they on? That was my addict mind. What drug do they have? Because I don't have that. The drugs I'm on make me angry. So I want that shit, that happy shit. And I was like, oh my God, it's these people. They found something bigger than themselves to believe in. They're not out here just white knuckling life, like trying to punch their way through it. Like they're helping people. They're being generous and compassionate to other people for no reason. Like you're not even trying to get shit from them. That's so crazy. Is that guy a drug dealer? Why are you being so nice to them? That's what I used to think. And like that's not normal. So anyway, that's a very long. It's like the Cliff Notes version of this ridiculous road that I got on 10 years ago to get to sobriety 39 days ago.
Yeah, there's so much to dive into, man. And I guess first I should just acknowledge that 39 days sober is a really big deal. And I just want to honor you for that.
Thank you.
It's inspiring. I'm proud of you. It's huge. It's really huge.
Thank you.
Um, you're welcome. And I'm curious, like, what about that day, that first meeting, that first hour after you were Googling, suicide techniques, whatever? Like, what was it in the meeting? Was it that you saw people like you, or that something clicked in your brain that you understood the way that you'd been living, or like what
Yeah.
was it specifically that changed you?
It was people like me. Like, and I do not mean this in a judgmental way, though I know it's probably going to sound that way. Um, these people didn't have anything over me, and these are the same people that I would have prior to seen on the street maybe and thought little of. I would have seen them and thought, "The fuck is this dude doing? Like, will you get out of?" I wouldn't have paid them any mind, let alone looked up to him. Forget it. But as different as everybody was in that meeting, we all had one thing in common. We were powerless over our addiction. Like our addiction made us their bitch. And here's what I learned really quickly, man. This thing, it doesn't matter what it is, man. Where I believe we're a lot of people out here are addicted to something or something, someone. And if it's gambling, if it's being fucking lazy, if it's whatever it is, man, if it's sex, if it's like it doesn't matter, dude, until you get to the point where you're like, for me at least, I don't want to live like this anymore. This thing is controlling me. My life has become unmanageable. Not in all areas, but in this area, I cannot manage my life, period. And I can't do it alone. That was it. The second I realized I can't do this alone, and I'm in a room filled with people who are just like me that said the same thing. But here I am. Like some of these people lost their freedom for a long time because of their addictions. They have hurt people literally, physically, not just emotionally. Not that that's better, but they have caused major wreckage in their life, and they've health, forget it. I don't they Some of them, they've shaved so many years off of their life, and they're coming, they're on the nice side of the street now, but they've lost a lot of years that they could have spent enjoying that side of the street because of their addiction. And it was I walked out of that meeting, and it was maybe a 10-minute walk from my house. Lord knows my wife wasn't going to let me drive her car anymore, that she knew I was drunk all the fucking time. But I couldn't get home fast enough. I got home, and I remember just shedding my bag. I had like my phone and keys in my hand. I just remember shedding all of them on the floor as I'm walking to the bathroom, because I didn't know if she was there or not. I just needed to get into this bathroom, and I wept. Man, wow, did I weep. Like I hadn't cried in years, like since my father passed away. It was just like realizing you're sick, you're not well, and it's okay. Like you're gonna be okay, dude. Like if you ask for help, if you surround yourself with people who are able to deal with what you're dealing with, it'll be okay. And I was so afraid, of losing my wife, of course, all these things, like that very quickly. Not to say that it doesn't matter, but it was. I now had so much hope that even if certain things in my life don't work out, it's okay. It's all right, man. I'm better equipped now. Whereas before, I would have just dumped a bunch of alcohol and onto the problem and exacerbated it. I would have made it a million times worse, or I would have just numbed out and woken up to the same fucking problem tomorrow and a day later. Now I can face it and be like, okay, well, it's not the best situation, but it's hard. I've been joking lately with some of my friends. I'm scaring them. They're like, bro, you're like on fucking fire. And I'm like, you're fucking right, I'm on fire, dude. I've been asleep for 10 years. Like I've been numbed out, disconnected for 10 fucking years. It's like I'm just rebooting now with like all new hardware. So they're like, man, you've changed. I'm like, you're fucking right. I've changed, man. Like, we got to grow now. Like, I'm 37. Like, was I going to be doing a bunch of fucking coke when I was 60? Like, when does it end? Like, this shit's not cute anymore when you're 60. So, and like, my mom is a great example. And I'll tell you, she's been sober since I entered the program. She's been reaching out to me, and she's been saying how proud of me she is. She almost drank herself to death. The doctor made it very clear, if you drink again, you die. So in recovery, we call that abstaining. You're not actually into a plan of recovery. You're forced not to drink or consume. Well, now that I'm in the program, I knew, well, that's a dangerous fucking game for her. I'm surprised she's been able to stay straight. At the same time, I haven't really been too worried about it because I've been dealing with my own recovery. So I'm like, fuck her, whatever. Well, good luck. Well, my younger brother calls me, Jeremy, literally 3 days ago and tells me, hey man, I didn't want to tell you this because I know you're going through your own battles right now, and it's probably not good timing, but I want you to know that mom is started using again. And uh man, she has been giving me advice on sobriety. She's been like praising me. Meanwhile, knowing it's going to kill her, she's using again, and older now, and in worse health now. She's picking her addictions back up, and that would have devastated me. It's still heartbreaking, of course, but that would have devastated me even 3 months ago. In the throes of my own addiction, if I had heard that, I would have, man, my head would have exploded and I would have taken out all of it on her, only making it worse. And I spoke to my sponsor about it. And it's so poetic that I'm in AA after spending my whole life telling my parents that they should go to AA. I'm the first one in my family to be in the fucker. And she went to her first meeting yesterday. Like, maybe the whole story is, the whole thing is, I in some sick way, while I'm trying to get better and frustrated and like change myself, like I'm her light. Like, how does that happen, dude? Like, I thought she was good just 5 seconds ago. I thought she was okay, and now I'm her light. Now I'm saving her life. Like, if that's how it shakes out, dude, like I said, I don't believe we're here on accident. I I've had more amazing, impossible, miraculous things happen since the very day I walked out of that AA meeting that I still can't make sense of. And I'm starting to understand, maybe I don't fucking need to make sense of it. I just need to keep staying in that stream of goodness and living honestly and being a decent person, and not, you know, trying to manipulate the whole system all the fucking time in my favor.
Mm. Damn, man, this could have been like a series of conversations. I feel like every time you start talking, I like bite my tongue from interjecting a follow-up question. But that's so beautiful to hear that your mom just yesterday, I think you said, has
Yeah.
gone to a meeting partially inspired by you. And as you say, like what a weird and miraculous thing this life is, and we can't predict how it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know if you're familiar, but to those listening, my own mom is an alcoholic. She's now hit 10 years sober, and
Awesome.
I had her on the podcast like a couple years ago. I think it's like episode 35 or 39. Her name's Kelly Westfall. You can listen to that. She talks all about what it felt like as a parent to be an alcoholic and her sober journey. And I would have bet $0 when she got out of rehab that she would be sober for like a year, much less 10. So that
Man.
episode is really inspiring because it proves the impossible can occur. So if you want to follow up to this topic, Kelly Westfall, she's my mom, and she starts crying in the fucking sound check because she was so emotional. I was like, I was like, all right, mom, similar to what I did to you, Jack, earlier. I was like, okay, I'm just testing this and I'm talking. And I was like, okay, mom, say something. And it was just quiet. And I was looking at the monitor on the screen. I was like, mom, just say something. And it was quiet. And I looked up and she says, sitting there with tears in her eyes and her lip is quivering. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, we haven't even started. She's like,
You're like, I'm picking
so,
up some background. There's someone there. Is there a baby?
yeah, I hear whimpering, but um, anyway, man, that's all to say. That to me was like firsthand experiential knowledge that anything can fucking happen. And it sounds like that's what you got from that first meeting, was like, oh, this is my community. I found my people. And these guys and gals had it way worse than me. I imagine that if you told your story of like, oh, I had a shot of, fruit
Pause.
flies and old red wine, they would just be like, that's adorable, you little
Yeah.
cutie.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah. They're like, that's protein, dude. That's like a that's like a good meal.
and so I imagine that's partially inspiring too, is somewhat to realize like, oh, I'm not I don't have it as bad as I thought I did. And like, and these folks have overcome, it's all relative, of course, but these folks have overcome, gotten clean, gotten sober, and I can do it too. Is that fair?
It's totally fair, and it's a that first meeting inspired me to start this project, the project that I started a few weeks ago. Like, I, I don't know if all I won't speak for all creatives or addicts, but those two things, like it's been, first of all, I identified so much with this drunken writer. Like, how fucking cliche. Can we just put that to bed already? Like, God, it's not even creative. The stupid stigma's hackneyed. So like, let's just bury this already, man. It's not healthy. And these idiots who are like, and I was one of them. So me first. These people who are like, oh, it really helps with my creativity. No, the fuck, it does not. Like, it's not an acid trip, dude. Like, your drinking is the most debilitating thing for your productivity ever. Like, other than like heroin, like, dude, you're waking up never. You're angry half the time. It's not like you're out here perfecting your craft. Like, no one's going to the gym drunk as shit and like, oh yeah, get a good pump on when I'm wasted. Like, that doesn't happen, dude. So like, we gotta put this to bed. But so like, I forgot where I was going with that, but
You were talking about your new project.
that's right. So check this out again. How everything just seems to. Bro, I really didn't give a shit about God or like. I was so self-absorbed, and that it was hard for me. A lot of people refuse treatment in AA specifically because they have a problem with God, and they make it so abundantly. I really feel like people, this stigma behind AA and God is keeping so many people from getting into treatment that they like. It's like they need a rebranding, because I was one of them. And the first thing they say in these meetings is like, we are not affiliated with any religious cult, sect, denomination. Like, we are only fucking here to keep you sober. That's it. If you have a problem with God in our big book, take your pen and cross it out. Who gives a shit? Just focus on your sobriety. But all these things, since for me, I don't believe that we're here by accident. I believe that there is something bigger in play. And uh, I personally, and with the help, honestly, you've helped me more than you know, dude. David G is like my fucking hero now, dude. I talk to this dude more than anyone in my life. And like, he's amazing. Like, every day. Like, I never meditated ever. When I say never, I mean fucking never. Ever. The only time I ever prayed was when life was really, I treated God or my higher power like FEMA. Like, once I fucked my whole world up, like, dude, hey, me again. Can you come clean up this fucking mess? It's a nightmare over here. Like, it was terrible how I act. Like, and now I get up at 4:30 in the morning. I have a yoga mat. Like, I walk by it and I think someone left something here every time. I'm like, who left? What is? Oh shit, that is my yoga mat. That is fucking my yoga mat. I've never said those three words, my yoga mat, ever. And I sit on this fucking yoga mat and I talk to David G, my dude. And I love it, man. And you're the one who told me, who encouraged me to do it. But AA introduced me to meditating and to praying. And it is by far, as much as journaling and goal setting and things like that, for me, reading, I'm an avid reader. I don't believe every great reader is a great writer, but I do believe every great writer is a great reader. I do believe that to be true. So reading is definitely a priority for me, but meditating and prayer for me has, as much as AA has saved my life. Like, it's put me in the flow and in the direction of the things that I want instead of against them, and away from them and distancing myself from them. I know every time I get fucked up, if I ever get loaded or drunk or high again, I'm just severing this connection with my higher power, with the universe. I'm doing shit that's going to get in the way of it. And I can't afford that anymore. Once I got out of once I connected, dude, amazing things have happened that are so hard to describe. Like, all right, so that night that I drank this cup of fucking bugs, uh, when I did that, um, I was writing this guy's custom poem, and I've probably done 2,000 of these over 10 years. And they were becoming such a drag, not because of them, because of me. I was just so like whatever shitty about the mundanity of every day doing the same shit. Well, that's me. I'm the creative, so I'm the one who's supposed to make everything creative, not them. I'm just telling their stories. I'm writing his custom poem. All hell breaks loose in my life the next morning. I end up in AA. This dude has no idea, by the way. I'm like, yeah, your fucking poem started this whole thing, man. It tipped the scales, and now I'm in recovery. Anyway, he messages me. I have 100 other orders, and in 10 years, I've spoken directly to maybe 3 people ever about their order, and they insisted on it. Usually, I was so shitty, I charged them for it. I was like, "You want to talk to me?" That's another $10 or however much a shot was. That's probably what I charged them. And so this guy insists on it. And I was just now entering recovery. I've been sober for 3, 4 days. I'm starting to deal with withdrawals. And like, it's just like, I don't want to fucking, like, I'm happy. I'm hopeful in life. I don't want to fucking talk to this guy about the thing I just wrote. Like, it's over, dude. I want to revisit it. And it was one of the coolest experiences I've had in so long, man. I spent an hour on the phone with him, and honestly, it felt like he was being heard for the first time, and I was listening for the first time. Like it was just so cool to connect with him. And from AA, I've learned this sense of community, which we get very little of on social media, and we're all fucking stuck on it all the time, and it's having like the opposite effect, in my opinion. And then from this guy who I didn't really want to talk to, I felt this sense of connection with people that isn't that difficult if you just try. It's not like you have to really overextend yourself. Just do anything and it might work. And I thought, wow, I have no fucking idea what I'm going to do with the rest of my career in the next chapter of my life, creatively, especially. At least I know I'll be sober and I'll have a clear mind to approach it. But what the fuck am I going to write about if I can't write about being a drunk writer? Who's gonna care, man? No one's gonna like my work. No one gives a shit. They'd rather see you happy anyway. So I I set out to write 100 custom poems. Well, I figured if I could find 75 to 100 people who are willing to spend time with me on the phone to do a Zoom meeting to really divulge, like not just send me some flippant email that's 3 sentences about how you got divorced, your dog got sick, and then now you're just got promoted and life's great. Right about that. Like that's so lazy and flippant, and that's what I was hoping they would provide me with. Now I want to hear your fucking story, man. I want you to tell me how the hell did you end up on this phone call with me? That's impossible. It's impossible that you and even you and me right now, it's impossible that we are on this call, dude. It's impossible. No fucking way. It's impossible. Yeah, here we are. How did that happen? I want to know that. And I thought, man, if I could find 75 to 100 people that will let me, maybe they don't know how, they have a story inside of them, but they don't know how to get it out. Maybe I can help them get that out and put that in a book. And I'm telling you, if I know from experience, because most of the material in my books are filled with things that I thought no one would relate to. Yet, the only reason I'm able to write full time is because everyone fucking relates to them. So there are so many people out there who are involved in this project now. I didn't even know if we would get 75. We got 100 of them in 10 days. So it blew my mind. Now I have this awesome new project that didn't even exist 2 weeks ago. Now I get to do that for the rest of the year. And there are so many people out there who have told me over the last 2 weeks, I just don't feel like my story's worth telling. And I'm like, bro, you gotta fucking smash that idea. That's garbage. That's so garbage that you would think that you're like what? Have you ever been to a funeral? Have you ever been to a funeral, dude? Like we're here and it's almost over already. Like, let's fucking go, man. Let's get it. Like, you can't hurt my feelings right now. Hell yeah, bro. I'm on fire. I've been asleep 10 fucking years, man. Let's go.
I love it. I love that so much, man. Are you when the book comes out, so basically just in sum, you have found you've basically sold collaborative spots to 100 people, and then they're gonna tell you their story over Zoom, and you're gonna write a poem about it, and then you're gonna put that all in one book, and that's gonna be your next book, right?
Yep, along with mine, my
Oh,
own.
all right. So your own original pieces.
Yep.
Gotcha. I pictured at like at a book release party to like have all of these 100 people in the room
Oh
together.
my God, I would love it.
Like
I
imagine
would.
that you just rent a space or get a bookstore to host, and then you just tell these people, hey, June 18th, here's the address, 6 p.m. Like it's book release time. I want to see all you fucking people in one room
Dude,
together with
yeah,
me.
and it's so cool, man, because we got like 3 or 4 people from Austria. Oh, listen to
Wow.
this. Yeah, Tel Aviv. We got one from Tel Aviv. We got like 3 from London, all
I
throughout. Like,
wanna I wanna be there. I'm gonna crash the party. I just
no,
feel
and
like that would be such a love fest.
we could do, yeah, man, the Zoom call. We just started doing these like Zoom calls and stuff. We've done like 2 or 3. I've started working. I did like 3 or 4, like I don't want to call them interviews, but whatever, deep dives into their story. Yesterday I did 3 or 4 of them yesterday, and then but listen to this shit, bro. And this is how like I'm just so fucking grateful for this opportunity, man. Like the fact one that people trust us, and I know you work with people, so you understand, man. That is like how important that is. Like some people are out here bullshitting with their advice, but there are a lot of people out here who want it and they need it and they really are down to be helped. And we're selling them a fucking bill of goods, man. And that was me, man. I was giving them cut rate work, half-hearted effort. And now I understand. And listen to this shit, man. There's this woman, I won't reveal her name, but she was apparently a big fan of my work. And uh, when I announced the project, I had a couple people send me her Instagram page, and I was like, I thought maybe they meant to tag her and they accidentally sent me her page or something. And it turns out that this girl has like followed me for like 9 years or something. She's had all my books. I did a custom poem for her earlier this year, like her third most recent Instagram or Facebook post was of my work that she shared. And she lost her own battle with addiction and depression and took her life a week and a half ago, like 2 days before I announced this project. And her friends are messaging me and saying, man, she would have loved to be a part of something like this. And I'm like, hold on, dude, this is fucking heartbreaking. That, what if I had found, and this is where my head goes, and it's, if you give a shit about people at all, I think it's natural. And I didn't until recently. So this is a new feeling for me. But I'm thinking now, man, what if I had found sobriety sooner? Like, I can't fucking waste time now. Like, I found it just in time, maybe for my mom, but maybe I could, if this girl connected with my work this much, maybe I could have helped her. I don't know. But I told these people, well, if she would have been wanted to be involved in a project like this, she should be involved in a project like this then. And now they've come together. They got permission from her family, and some of her friends have came together, and they're telling her story in this book. So I get to write her story through her friends for her now. And like, man, it's just it's a bunch of cool stories like that. I've only spoke to like 3 or 4 people in depth already, and like I could have never gotten the amount of intimacy and detail. Like they say, the drama's in the detail. Well, that's up to me to get. I'll write it, but like I gotta allow you to give it to me. So I'm talking to these people who I don't know if I no, I do know. I would have never been able to get the amount of connection with them from them through a fucking email. I wouldn't. Sitting there on a Zoom call with them, looking them in the eyes, and them telling me about how the things that they've overcame, and what it's like to to bury your child, just like some crazy, crazy heavy things that deserve more than an email. And that's I'm so lucky to be in a position like I could have never done this 6 months ago. I would have been too self-absorbed, too selfish. Like I just wouldn't. I First of all, I was waking up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon still drunk, so it would have been so unfair to them too. So like helping myself, now I get to hopefully help some other people. It's just man, when this shit comes together, when I get out of my own fucking way and trust in something bigger than myself and ask for it, and like I see how you live. You ain't a saint to me. You don't walk on water, but I see how you live, and I say that dude is fucking happy. I know he's probably not bullshitting now. Before I would have probably thought you were bull. Now I'm like, well, what the fuck is this guy doing? Why is he so happy? I'm over here bitching about how like whatever how hot it is in New Orleans. Why is he
Even
happy?
when you were talking earlier, years ago about how you would look at people and be like, "Oh, fuck this guy." I was like laughing to myself because I was thinking, "Oh man, I would have triggered Jack so much years ago," and it also made me remember something that I had said to somebody, or I sometimes say it in talks that I give, where basically the punchline is, "I am right now somebody that I used to make fun of." I'm
Hell
like,
yeah.
oh, like you're vegetarian? Oh, cute, bro. Like get some fucking steak. That's why we have canines. And like, oh, that's an ador. Oh, you have a nose ring? That's cute. And like, oh, really? You don't drink? Like, oh, you're too good for us. It's like I have become a person that I used to like make fun of. And there's something so interesting about that evolution and to get to a place where like I don't care really
No.
because I'm like I like my life and I like who I am and I realize that I'm just perpetually a work in progress and I don't know, I kind of feel that from you too, where like I imagine you a year ago, or maybe even like, a month ago, it sounds like 2 months ago, would have looked at you now. Because I see your content on Instagram too. It's like, oh, you're going for walks oh, you own a yoga mat, bro? Like, oh, you like David G? David G is like a meditation teacher on Insight Timer, and he's kind of like a guru voice. He's an older
Oh, it's the
dude,
best.
so wise. But do you feel that too? You're like you're becoming somebody so drastically different that
Yeah.
you're like a
And
caricature now.
it really is, dude. And it's like, why shouldn't it be this way? Like, what a slow, stupid death to just like, oh yeah, well, this is who I am. I hate that. I used to make fun of those people too. Like, well, if you don't like it, you can leave. And I'm like, what, bro? Like, there's other people here with you. Like, you're not just by yourself on Earth. Like, what do you mean if you don't like it, fuck off? Like, nah, man. Like, we can grow. We don't have to be this way forever. And I would look at people like that and think, oh, how granola, this tree hugger. And like, but what? Like, who gives a shit now? Like, and maybe that's just maturity. But
Mm.
to me, it was more. It was a humbling of thyself, right? I had to eat some shit, man. Like I really had to bottom out. And I wish it wasn't that way, but it could have only been this way. Like it took my father passing, it took being homeless, it took losing my son, it took failed opportunities and relationships and heartbreak and heartache and just total suicide. Like it took these kinds of things for me to realize I don't want to live like this anymore.
Yeah.
And I thought it evolution, my growth was going to be so long and so just like a slogging, just like uphill through the mud both ways with this rock on my back and like that's what I thought. And it's not. It's not like that, dude. It's for me, I walked into the meeting one way, I walked out a different person. It was a decision for me. Maybe for other people, they got to overcome some things. Maybe they got a health issue or it's a financial thing. But dude, I know that this sounds maybe not weird to you, Jeremy, but to people in my life it would. But like little things, dude, when I sat here quietly in a quiet space and I took that worry that I had about money, because now, my wife and I are separating while I'm in recovery. Well, I got to find a place to live in a week in New Orleans in this fucking real estate market, and I have to find a place that's walking distance to my AA meetings. She has our car. I can't drive it, so I gotta that my sponsor. I gotta find something close to my sponsor. I can't just be taking Ubers all around New Orleans all the time. That's just gonna be too much. So how am I gonna find a place? Well, I call our landlord and I ask him, "Hey man, I know this is a long shot, but do you happen to have any places that are like coming up for rent?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I have a place. The guy's been there 7 years. He's just tired of New Orleans. He's moving out of the state. There's nothing wrong with it, but it won't be ready till August 1st. That's a week and a half from then. It's right down this walking distance from where I lived, walking distance to the meeting on the same road as my sponsor." Impossible, impossible. But sitting here quietly, okay, well, that's the first thing. How the fuck did that happen? So now I'm like, well, I got to come up with 3 months rent. I can't just leave my wife over here high and dry. So I basically got to come up with two rents now. Well, I'm sitting here quietly thinking, like, well, what can I do, man? How do I do this? I write poetry. I sell poetry for a living, dude. I'm not independently wealthy. In a second, this idea, this kindred project comes to mind. And I don't even totally have all the faith in it. I just think it's a great idea and I want to do it. And so I meditate on that. I spend some time in that space and I just acted on that. It felt right. I acted on that. I put that video out there asking if anyone would be interested in spending time with me, getting to know each other and sharing your story with the world. And they fucking did, man. And in a second, I had enough money. Like it's all right there, man. And it was just me in the way. So maybe for other people, it's going to be a long uphill battle. But for me, my life was the long uphill battle, dude. Once I stopped fighting it, once I just got in line with the things I want and started living honestly and genuinely, man, I've told people in my life that it's like the whole fucking world started to bend in my favor.
It's so surreal, right? And to try to explain that to people who have never tasted it, it's like trying to explain what it's like to be in love or like what ice
Yeah,
cream it's like when you've never had it. It's
yeah.
like,
Yeah,
uh,
and I know I didn't answer your question fully, but it was like
yeah.
that's how I feel. Like, yeah, so people who like my friends who are like, oh man, this dude's like whatever, blah blah, or like something heavy, like my mom, her relapsing behind my back and now adding painkillers or pills to it, like that should devastate me. And it's not that I'm just in this ignorant perpetual bliss with my head on my ass and in the clouds or whatever. It's like I'm not my drinking, my addiction is not going to help. So I got to take care of me. I can't be. It's not even that I'm bulletproof. It's that if I get hit with a bullet now, I know I'll be all right.
Hmm.
So it's just a different place where like, yeah, you can call me whatever you want, bro. You can't hurt my fucking feelings right now.
Yeah. It's actually, I was going to ask you a question about how your relationships have shifted since, you know, 39 days ago, I suppose. I was going to see how your friendships have been affected, if at all. And I was going to ask how your relationship with your wife has changed, but it seems like there is some updates there.
Yeah, she here's the other thing that a lot of us don't realize. We I remember in my very first book, I wrote this. First of all, it's my first book ever. Okay. I'm drunk most of the time, but I'm still aware enough to realize this is an important moment in my life. I just published my first book and it is selling. That is a cool thing. And I remember there was one poem in there about my mother. And not directly, it was just like a line amongst it. And it said something like, my father is no longer here now. My mother is as much of a drunkard as ever. And I remember her calling me and saying, Jack, Jack, what is this on page 82? And I'm like, what? How the hell? I don't even know what's on page 82. And she's like, you said I'm a drunk? Our family is going to read this. And I'm like, dumbass, you don't think they know? Like, you don't think everyone knows? And that was me. I was also a dumbass. I'm over here drinking in the dark, thinking no one knows, man. And here's what happened with my friendships, they all knew I was unwell. They all knew. And the second I was like, oh, fuck, I'm unwell, they're like, yeah, you're unwell. You should get help. I'm like, yeah, I should do that. And then I did. And then they were very proud. It was like, why was I complicating this shit so much, dude? It's like, oh, and not only that, man, it's amazing how many people, when you just tell them you need help, like we talked about it earlier, it's like you say you need help. Well, I mean, if you act like you don't need help at all, people are more likely to be almost shitty to you. Whereas if you act like, hey, humbly, right? If you ask humbly for help, people just tend to. And with Riley, I know it sounds crazy, but like it's like we just started dating again. It's like a little distance between us, like released all the tension. And I was so worried about whether or not a relationship was going to work that I was like, it was like a vice grip on it. And like I was trying to cling on to, I had
Mm.
sobriety in one hand and then her, and I had to let go of her. And the second I did and just focused on being well, Jesus, dude, she's so more proud of me than anyone in my life. She's more in love with me than maybe I deserve even sometimes because I focused on me and because it I was so worried when I found sobriety about what kind of person am I going to be. And the truth of it is, I've become so much more of what I always thought I knew myself to be. It's like a better version of who I already am. It's not someone volatile or inconsistent or selfish, and it's all the things that she fell in love with me about or over just more of, and without all the bullshit. So it's saved our relationship to the point where like we could probably pick up right where we could be back together right now, but both of us are at peace with where we are, and it's like why the fuck would we everything's going so great, let's just do more of this. And
Mm.
it's awesome. And same thing with my friends, my friendships. My circle's a little smaller now, but that's my choice. I used to keep people in my life to use them. Like if you were a bartender and you would comp my drinks, I thought you were great. I don't know a fucking thing about that person, but I'd be like, hey man, that guy is so cool. And they'd be like, why? I'm like, I don't know. He comps my drinks. I don't even know their fucking names half the time. Like if you could get me drugs, like to me, I thought you were just a real swell guy. Now I'm like, I don't fucking need these people in my life, man. I was putting these people that I would use over the people that I love. And that had to stop. So once I did, I had more time and space for people I love.
Have you found it, just building on what you said there about, it sounds like you're living more as your true self now, as a sober version of Jack. Have you found it confronting to receive love, acceptance, ease, abundance, money, like in this new sort of way of living? Like, has
Yeah,
it felt difficult or
no,
surprising or no?
it's all been easy, and uh, I've really like a lot of Wayne Dyer's teaching, like you know, Tao Te like all that stuff has become a lot more important in a very quick time or a short amount of time than I was expecting. So I really do. As ridiculous as it used to sound to me when people would be like, "Oh man, don't give that energy to that." Now I'm like, bro, I don't really want to talk about some of the things that I used to like. What did I tell you yesterday? I have this great, terrible habit of shitting on other artists, like profusely. If you are a lazy writer, I find you lower than squid shit, especially if you're profiting off it. I hate it. And see
You
that
said
level
this
of
is the last time, is what you said in the text. This is the last time I'm going to do this, but let me shit on this person real quick.
and that's what I'm saying. So I'm getting there, baby steps. I'm
Yeah.
not saved, but that's where I am now. So like the money thing that I used to worry about, or like, I used
Mm,
to sit here and bitch about why I've gained 15, 20 pounds and then do nothing. And I'm like, well, I all I do is sit here and think about that. What the fuck?
mm,
How's that gonna fix it? So I'm like, cool, let me wake up and put my energy towards working out. And when I don't want to work out, I'm not that person who's like, oh, I didn't want to go to the gym today, but I did it anyway. Go me. I'm like, fuck that guy. That guy sucks. So instead, I'm like, cool, let me
wait, you
put
just shit on that guy though. You said you're not going to do that.
my okay, so here's what I'm gonna do then. So what I'm gonna say is instead of doing that, I'm going to put my energy towards wanting to work out.
Yeah.
That's where I gotta start. I gotta put my like I want to wake up now and I'm gonna be like, all right, let me start focusing on the good shit because you know me well enough to know I have I am a professional asshole. I have a master class in critiquing the way other people do things, and I'm starting to understand now that this jealousy and this envy is mostly me counting someone else's blessings before my own. And I have got to nix that, dude. I got to get rid of that, and that's where I'm trying to spend my space on now. If I can't be happy for them entirely, wholeheartedly, well, then I can at least not shit on them. So baby steps.
Yeah, I love that too, man.
You're
And I
gonna have
also
to you're gonna have to help me with that shit though.
I mean, I yeah, vice versa, my friend. It's not
You're
as
my
if
enabler. Who am I gonna show on writers to?
I'm gonna work on that alongside you as well. But I think well, I want to end or wrap this up with a plug for AA. I know you said earlier that you don't want to plug it, but in my experience, I've gone to a few meetings with my mom and she gets her chip and so she's out. She's not upset about being anonymous. Like she has a whole
Yeah,
podcast
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
But you get her chip and then you celebrate a year of sobriety and they give you the cake and they sing the celebration song. And the first time that I went to an AA meeting, I had in my mind that this is going to be depressing in a gray,
Mm-hmm.
dirty warehouse, and everybody's going to be miserable and a bunch of fucking addicts. And this is
Yep.
going to be gloomy and miserable and depressing. And it was completely mind blowing to me because it was almost exactly the opposite.
Yep.
It felt like, at least at that meeting, I've gone to a few now, but it felt welcoming and people were friendly and it
Yep.
felt like a family reunion
Mm-hmm.
and it was fun. And the speakers were some of the very best speakers that I've
Awesome.
ever seen talk.
Incredible.
Uh,
Yeah.
just absolutely mind blowing, heart opening talks about their lives. So that is me giving a plug for AA. If you are listening and you've perhaps been thinking about going or wondering what it's like, it was approximately 100 times better than I thought it would be. To the point, Jack, where I remember walking out and saying to my mom, I was still drinking back then. I remember saying to her, God, like, I want to get sober so I can come back to these meetings. And like,
Yeah, man.
and she got it. I was like, I want a chip. Like, I want to feel what that's like to get a chip. And so, yeah, I just think it's a wonderful thing. As you suggested, it's not for everybody, but there are various approaches to sobriety. You don't have to do a 12-step program. There's also a Buddhist one. Do you know that guy's name? Gosh, it's like a 12-step from a Buddhist slant rather than the God slant.
But they
I'll
have
look
they have
it up.
AA for atheists. They have, they don't care, man. Their whole thing is whatever they need to do to help you get sober. They'll find their little fucking lane for you. So I'm not gonna plug it either, but I've had more people in the 39 days of me broadcasting my sobriety. It
Mm,
keeps me accountable. So I
yeah.
don't mind doing it. Like I've had people who say like, "Oh man, every day you post this video," like I realized I've spoke to a lady this morning about it, and I've become this. I don't know, man, this fucking light for another way, I guess, for some people, which is just crazy to me. But she she's like, I don't know if I'd call myself an alcoholic, but I do have a drinking problem, and I'm like, well, all right. Well, let me explain to you who you sound like. Literally every person who needs AA. Like, yeah, yeah, that it's for you. And like honestly, the question
Mm,
I would ask people is, one, if you don't want to go, don't go. Fuck it. Just keep drinking. Let me know how that works out for you.
yeah.
Eventually you'll probably want to go. But for me, it was like I had to ask myself, if alcohol and drugs are having a negative impact on my life, why can't I stop them? That's it. That's all. And once I didn't know the answer or thought that what I could stop them and then continued over and over and over and over and over again not to stop them. If alcohol and drugs are having a negative impact on me, why can't I stop them? Okay, I don't have that answer, so maybe AA does and did, and or maybe it's something else for you. My mom thought for a while she was just going to go to church. Some people try therapy. For me, neither of those would have worked because, like I said, I had to sit in a room with people that looked just like me. A
Mm,
therapist, for me, I maybe they could have helped it, and not to, I probably should go to therapy and deal with some other underlying issues. But for me at that time, I didn't need the Bible. I needed a dude to stand up in front of the room and be like, "My name's Jeff. I'm a heroin addict, and I've been sober for 9 years." Because that's heavy shit to me, and that gave me hope. That's what those rooms did for me.
mm. Well, uh, just want to reiterate, I'm proud of you. I'm inspired by you. It's been really really cool to follow your journey for so many years and to just sort of witness the transformation. And I'm so stoked about this new project that you have. I can't wait to read that book. Can't wait to crash that book launch party wherever it
Hell
is.
yeah, man.
Is there so I'll include links in the show notes to the various things we've chatted about. The book is by an author called Noah Levine. It's called Refuge Recovery: A Buddhist Path to Recovering from Addiction.
Awesome.
I just Googled it. But any final thoughts, Jack? Anything we didn't cover that you're like, yo, why didn't you ask me about this? I want to say this.
Yeah, here's what I'll end with. Thank you, dude. I have been on a very long, treacherous, painful ride, and we've kind of watched it from afar, from the fringes of each other's lives. But even in the throes of my addiction, when I was in the weeds, I could always count on you and your page. And I know it's just social media, and I don't, I'm not, I don't genuflect in front of your Instagram page, but I'll tell you, the way you walk, the way you go about life and navigate through this bitch sometimes is inspiring to me. It has helped me more than you know. I plug into your shit when I plug into, honestly, when I'm pulling away from most people in my life. I can take a shit, go to your page, hate my life, and then wipe my ass feeling better. And that's a cool spot for me, man. And I hope you're proud of yourself. And I mean, you're definitely the coolest doctor I know.
Uh, Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
I received that shit. It's suddenly dusty in here. My eyes are a little bit have a little more water than they need. I think I was not I was not expecting it to go that direction, but yeah, it's very meaningful to hear that, and thank you. And I'm glad to be some small amount of oomph pushing you towards yourself and the life that you really deserve. So what a blessing
We
to know
should.
you, and
I hope one day we can eat some more vegetables together. That's my real
it'd
goal.
be great. Come visit. I'm in my guest room.
Yeah, they have vegetables there.
They do, yeah. We have all kinds of edible vegetables. If you want, man, I could pour you
Wait, no, I saw the girl had like beef liver. Like I got
yeah,
canines, bro. Like that's what I need.
yeah. Bro, we got fruit flies if you're
Oh
craving.
hell yeah! Now you're talking my language, man. Just hold the booze, just the flies, please.
Yeah, well, I mean, the door's always open if you want to come visit. And for sure, I mean it. I would love to be at that book launch party. I think that just sounds like such a powerful evening. And if I can support or assist or pep talk along the way, just hit me up, man. Shoot me a text.
Will do, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah. And oh, hang on.
Yeah,
Jack, where can people find you? You've got an Instagram account that I'll put in the show notes. You have a
yeah,
website. You've got 5 books on Amazon. Is that
yeah.
right?
Yeah, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, they're on there. Some Barnes and Noble still carry them. I don't know if anyone ever goes to Barnes and Noble anymore, but yeah, it's under either J period Raymond or Jack Raymond or J Raymond writing. And um yeah, I mean, I'm kind of huge, so if you just Google my name, Google me, bro. Now, if you just Google
What are
my
all the, you said three, like J Raymond, Raymond. What are all those? Are those Instagram accounts? Or
So I think my apparently I'm like biggest on Pinterest, and I don't even have one. So I
oh,
think on Pinterest it's the letter J Raymond writing, and then on Instagram it's J period Raymond. On Facebook it's Jack Raymond.
okay. I'll put those in the show notes.
Appreciate you, bruh.
Yeah. And people can check out your words. And I think that's it, man. I think we just crushed a podcast.
Nailed it.
One thing we didn't talk about though was that time you stood me up on the first podcast.
Oh yeah, we should talk about it. I would.
Because
I'll tell you. Let me tell you
I
how
reached,
simple.
hang on, I reached out to you and we had this one booked in, and I think I mentioned it to you, like, well, bro, like we already had a thing scheduled, but you just didn't show up, and then you just wrote back like, yeah, that sounds about right. It's like
It does. That really does sound about right. You know,
We finally made it happen.
the wreckage of my drunken past. Also, I laid waste to podcast hosts and friends alike.
Yeah. But I'm glad we pulled it off. And this is a powerful episode. I'm sure lots of people listening are going to take a lot away from it and create even more ripples for you. So bravo, man. Well done.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.